want to make this, oh gosh, I want to make this video for anybody that's going through something difficult. I had been without a job for over 6 months, and it was getting really, really hard to be faithful and to do what God was saying when I felt like things weren't working out. But he was there the whole time, and even when I was doubting and felt like he was pulling away, when in actuality it was me pulling away, he was still there trying to show me scriptures and show me symbols and show me different things to tell me like it's going to be okay, just have faith. And he did exactly what he said he was going to do. So I just want to encourage anybody, if you're going through something difficult, a life-changing situation, please pray to God and start by fasting. That opens the door to hear his voice so clearly. You get rid of all that junk and you become dependent on him. I had taken, like anything that happened, I had documented in my calendar. On my phone, but because I record from my phone, I went ahead and transferred my notes onto my notebook here, so you can see all of the dates and stuff that all of this happened. June 14th, by this time I had been let go in March, and by June 14th I was just pretty much over it. I had taken a couple of interviews, they didn't end up working out, and I was just fed up. So on this particular day, it was probably like 5 o'clock in the afternoon or something, I was driving home from the store and I was really upset, and I was like crying out to God, and I told him like, I'm about to give up. I'm about to do whatever it is that you don't want me to do, because I'm tired of like trying to keep the faith and trying to do what's right and it never works out, or I feel like I get so far and then I'm just disappointed. I was fed up and I was screaming in my car on the drive, and like the next day even my throat was hurting and my voice was gone a little bit because I was like super passionate. I was tired. I was so tired. That night I had caught the One Church LA Thursday night Bible study. Message that he was giving at that particular moment was not part of the sermon, but it was just talking to people who have businesses and how there's going to be something coming that is going to allow you to get your business off your feet. So at that time I was trying to open up my art store, and I had sent like samples and stuff to influencers. I was writing emails to influencers trying to see if I could get them to just mention my products, or if I could create something for them custom, and nobody would reply to me. And even the samples that I sent, like I've never heard back from anybody, and I've seen people get them and they never reached back out to me. So I was really disappointed with that. But Tori was speaking specifically to entrepreneurs that something was going to happen that day. Don't give up, hold on. So I have a clip of that I wanted to show you guys. I'll insert that now.
Of who he is, and I felt a word in my spirit arise, and I heard God say, I'm going to restore the years. I'm going to restore these 3 months. And watch this, and this is for you, not in my notes, not a part of the series, but God is saying that if you don't quit, if you don't give up, if you don't put a period where God has put a comma, God said, I'm going to restore you. I'm going to renew you. I'm going to rebuild you. I feel that for somebody. When the inspiration comes in the middle of the night, get your pen out there. I'm going to bring you relationships. I'm going to bring you resources, and I'm going to bring you restoration. If that's for you, if you're an entrepreneur and that's your word, receive it right there. Put it in there, right there.
So when God showed me that video, I felt like he was hearing me, but nothing really happened between June 14th and August 12th. So in between that time, I had gone on another interview that ended up unsuccessful, and I pretty much fell into a depression where I was just Netflix every single day. I was in my bed. I had no motivation to get out of bed. I didn't want to do anything. I hated having to like go to the store or cook. So I've lived by myself for almost 10 years, and my mother had her lease was coming to an end, and she wanted to move in with me because she wanted to save money. Her plan was to relocate to another state, and I thought that was fine because I felt like I didn't have any big life changes coming up, so this wouldn't be a big deal, and I could save money as well. But the problem with that is I don't have a good relationship with my mom. She's actually a very toxic person. She's never been kind to me, and she wouldn't do this for me if the shoe was on the other foot. But I just felt like because she's my mom and she wanted to do this, that was the biggest reason why I allowed it to happen, even though it was super detrimental to my health, and a lot of things happened from having her so close to my space, to where I just felt like it was just an evil energy in the house. I was just over it. So I had asked my mom if she wanted to move out, and I told her I would pay for the transfer fee, I'll pay for her move if we can just separate. And I told her, after we separate, I'm never gonna talk to you again. The move was on the 17th of August, but on the 12th of August, God had spoken to me and he asked me to start fasting and praying. So this was the second time that God had ever asked me to fast, but the first time I didn't want to do it. Because I didn't know the power behind it, I didn't understand it, and I just didn't feel like it. And I think I could have avoided a lot of trouble if I would have just listened. And on the 14th of August, that's when I started my fast. And the thing he kept saying to me was like, new beginnings, everything's gonna be fresh. And it kind of got me really excited. So on the 14th, 15th, and 16th, I fasted, and then on the 17th, I moved into my new apartment, and I was so excited. It felt like a whole new world. All of that evil energy that my mom had brought into my space was completely cleared. My daughter was really happy to be back in our own space, and I just felt really good. I was cooking. We immediately unpacked, which is something that I didn't expect because I was so low energy at the time. And on the 19th of August, I started watching the 700 Club. And this is something that I never thought that I would watch because I remember my grandma used to watch it, and I just always attributed it to being an old lady show. I never thought that I was gonna watch a show, but I just started watching testimonies and things like that. And I was obsessed with watching testimonies, seeing how God and Jesus were working in people's lives, curing things, getting people out of financial disasters, just all kinds of stuff, bringing atheists to the Christian life, and these big, tough, tattooed biker dudes sobbing because of the power of Christ. I just thought it was amazing. I was thinking when I was watching it was, I don't want my recommendeds to be all Christian videos, because I was like, that's boring. But that's what ended up happening. I learned about tithing for the first time. I, of course, knew about it, but I didn't know what the Bible said about it. I didn't know how impactful it could be on your life. And this is where I kind of started understanding how important it was. On the 20th of August, I learned how I was supposed to depend on God through a woman who does videos on fasting. Her name is Joy, and she speaks about the experiences that she's had, how miraculous things have happened because she basically tells you how to depend on God. And that was something that I didn't understand. I thought just loving God and knowing, that God was there was enough, but it's actually you making him your source, taking the human component out of it completely and just making God your sole source, and everything goes through him. That's how your life changes. So through the fasting as well, I started learning how to pray more. I was worshiping all the time, like from day to night. I would just be watching testimonies and videos on Christianity, videos on Jesus and his disciples. And still to this day, it's pretty much my entire day is just watching videos based around Jesus and God. Once I started becoming prayerful, I felt like God was asking me to go ahead and submit my resumes again. So I had submitted maybe like 5 or something like that, but there was one particular job that I saw, and I was like, you know how when God speaks to you, your heart kind of like leaps a little bit, or like your spirit jumps? When I saw this particular job, that's what happened. But when I submitted, I want to tell y'all how God works. Man, my cover letter, I actually submitted the wrong company and the wrong position title because it was a template that I was using, and I didn't realize it until I already submitted it, right? And he said, resubmit it. And I did. And I changed the name, I changed some of the wording, and I changed the position, and I resubmitted it. So that was on August 21st. And then on the 22nd, I saw a video on this lady who is an account manager. She had a black cat, which the position I was going for is account management. I have a black cat, and she had lost her job during the recession, and God told her to make a list of specifics specifics that she wanted, and I felt like that's what God was telling me to do. So I went ahead and I made a list. I put it under my pillow, and then I read a scripture, and it said, and he confirmed that night that it will be done as I wish, because my faith is so great. So on the 23rd of August, on the 20th of August, I had reached out to my cognitive therapist, and I had asked her if I could schedule a time with her to talk. She said that she didn't have that time available, which I thought was weird because she always usually has a specific slot available. But when she replied and asked me if this date would work instead, I felt like God was telling me to wait. And I had never felt this before, but he was like, wait until September 15th. And I was like, I'm not going to tell her an exact date. Like, that's weird. And I think it's me thinking this thought. So I'm not going to tell her. And I waited a few days to reply to her because it was just so weird. But I have a screenshot of that also. So on the 24th of August, I submitted my resume on the 21st. 3 days later, I heard back from the company. But get this, the reply to my resume had gone to my junk mail, and I never checked my junk mail. I hadn't checked my junk mail for about 3 months because typically all that's in there is like advertisements from companies and restaurants. But something was like, check your junk mail folder, and I had looked in there, and they had reached out to me, but for some reason, because the devil, went to the spam folder. But I replied. I set up my first phone screen with them. When I set up my first interview, I texted my cousin. I was like, you're not gonna believe this. I sent the wrong cover letter to this company, and they replied, this is the job that God is telling me that I'm gonna get. I need you to come into agreement with me that if this is for me, no devil is gonna stop me from getting it, because I felt like the devil tried it by sending it to spam in the first place. She came to agreement with me. Felt at that time like this is the job for me, but because my flesh was so weak and because I was kind of full of doubt, it was really hard to keep that mindset. I started following this prophetic, I don't know what to call it. She does prophetic messages. Prophetess? She does prophetic messages, and I felt like she was the first person that I watched that was really speaking into the situations that I was in. Every day she would speak, and I would be like, you know, she's talking to me. And I had been following some other prophetic people that gave prophetic words, but I didn't feel like it always hit the nail on the head. And this lady, K Nash, she is the complete opposite of what I was looking for, but she's precious. And every time she would do a video, almost, it would be speaking into my situation. So this one particular day, she gave a message that really hit me. And then the next day, on August 25th, I was watching Joy's channel again. I had been like watching her videos all day. And she had mentioned how God showed Noah the rainbow, and it was a sign of the covenant that God made with him, that he would never flood the earth again. And she said, typically if you see a rainbow, that means God is never gonna make you go through this particular set of tests again. And I remember thinking to myself, like, God wouldn't be able to show me a rainbow because it's beautiful outside and I'm always in my apartment. So a few minutes after that happened, something was telling me to get up and go clean my daughter's room. So I was like cleaning up her stuff, straightening it up, and I looked down and there was a rainbow on the floor. And I couldn't tell what the sun was hitting to make this rainbow reflect on the floor, but it was, I haven't seen a rainbow in I don't even know how long. So the fact that that day, within 30 minutes of me saying I'll never get to see a rainbow, it showed up in my house. It went from like this big, and then it got to about this big, and then within a few minutes it was gone. So if I didn't go out there at the time that I felt that urge to go out and clean, I wouldn't have seen it. But I felt like when I did see it, that was God telling me, number one, it's going to be okay, and number two, when this ends, you're not going to have to go through this again. The very next day, I did my first phone screen for the position, and they scheduled my second interview right on the phone with me, which is something that I've never had happen before. Typically after the first round, I have to wait a little bit to hear back. But this time they scheduled it while I was on the phone. So I just thought that was crazy. And then on top of that, before I got on the phone screen, I was really prayerful, very excited. I wasn't nervous when I was talking to him. I felt like the Holy Spirit was inside of me when I didn't know what to say. And it was almost like I could feel it in my chest. When I would say, the words would just come out. It was just supernatural confidence. I couldn't believe that it had gone so well and that they had scheduled my second interview on the call. A few days prior, God had directed me to start another fast. So I fasted again for the 29th, the 30th, and the 31st before the month ended. I did a 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. fast for 3 days. And this is, and the next day after I started my fast, I saw a video. Even though felt like I was hearing from God, I'd still be full of doubt. Like, God's not talking to me. Like, this job isn't gonna happen. I'm just getting my hopes up. For whatever reason, I just didn't always feel faithful that he was gonna come through. So I ended up seeing on the 30th a video from a beautiful queen named ShanaBeeFree. And she was saying how God directed her to a job and she wasn't qualified for it, but she ended up getting it because the way that God's glory was shining through had set her apart during her interview. And the crazy thing is she had mentioned at some point one of the dates of the interview, and I was like, if she gets the job on my birthday, I know that God is talking to me. Not only did she get the job on my birthday and mention the date, my birth date, in the video, but it was a Good Friday and it was 8 o'clock at night when she had gotten the offer. So it was just like, it was meant for me to see that video, and I felt like that was God confirming that the job that I was waiting for was also going to be mine. Because you just know when God is talking to you, and that's how I felt.
Just God's faithfulness. I just kept thinking about all the rejections, all the people who said no, all the doors that didn't open, and God was like, they weren't supposed to, because this was the door I wanted to open for you. I email her back, and I'm like, yes, we can talk tomorrow about a formal offer. So y'all, I wake up that morning, mind you, April 10th, 2020, it's Good Friday. You guys, I'm gonna be talking about the offer to this job on a Good Friday.
So on the 31st of August, the last day of my fast, I had a meeting with the COO of the company, and I was very nervous, but instead of allowing nerves to get to me, I decided to do praise and worship music prior to my interview. Got down on the floor and prayed to God, asked him to speak through me, give me all the right answers, let his glory just set me apart. The interview went really, really well. I had asked him a couple of questions. He was like, oh wow, great question. Or like, he had to kind of think about it, or I asked him questions and he could tell I was well researched I pretty much stalked the entire company and his LinkedIn. I had asked him a question about something on his LinkedIn profile, and he thought that was really awesome. So I was just well prepared. The answers just flowed off my tongue. Like, it was really awesome. Getting on to the final round. But in this time, before I got on the call for the final interview, God had asked me to tithe. And I had always tithed, but never like 10%. I would just tithe kind of every Sunday, just a little something. So I knew that you should be tithing 10%. So I was wondering if God wanted me to tithe 10% of what I currently had in that account, or if he wanted me to tithe over and above that amount. I said, do you want me to tithe the 10%, or do you want me to tithe like this larger amount that I'm feeling on my spirit? Before I could get it out, he said, how much do you trust me? And when he said that, I was like, listen, we're going all in. So I went ahead and I tithed. I consider One Church LA my church, And then I also tithe to K Nash Ministries because her prophetic words had been helping me a lot during this time. Even though I didn't have a job, I didn't worry about this large sum being gone from my account. It felt good to be following God's word. I felt confident that he would never let me down. I felt like I was just within his will, and that's what felt the best. Like, I wasn't regretful. I wasn't pensive, like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that, or I could have spent that here instead. I was just like, I just felt really good to be doing what the Lord asked me and to be living like within his will for the first time. It was really awesome. And I just felt like that's how you like keep your relationship with God, by just being obedient and doing sometimes what's scary or what doesn't make any sense. Ended up having to do a sample email, and I went ahead and I processed my tithe, and I also joined the CBN network, which is the Christian Broadcasting Network. They work with I don't know if they work with the 700 Club or whatever it is, but they have a thing called Operation Outreach where they go all over the world and do some incredible things. So I went ahead and I signed up to give a monthly, I don't know if it's offering or tithe, I'm not really sure. A monthly payment, I don't know, to help with those organizations in the midst of being unemployed. Because when you're giving and you're giving not to get something in return, well, for me, it was really freeing, and it made me feel really good that I was helping contribute to, other people being fed, or kids getting, life-changing surgeries that they needed, or whatever the case was. Oh, okay. So when I did that tithe, that night I wanted to pray for my healing and for my daughter's healing of anything that may be affecting us. And the scripture that he showed me was like right on what I asked for. I'll show you guys that. And I felt like he was talking directly to me, like I had God on the hotline. So this was a really cool moment as well. When it felt like he was talking to me, I still would have moments of doubt, because all the devil needs is like this much space in your brain to make something into like a catastrophic, like you become fearful, you become doubtful. Even though God is speaking right to you, you still don't even think he hears you. And it's just, it will make you miserable. So when you are in those moments of doubt, you really have to combat that by worshiping, putting on worship music, getting on your knees and praying, by watching testimonies, whatever motivates you and gets you back under God's wing, instead of pushing you further. Like, you have to be consistent with it, because it only takes this much room for you to start doubting everything that God said. On the 4th of September, I had learned that divine silence doesn't mean that God is not there. It just means that, like, he doesn't always have to show some kind of grandiose thing for you to know that he's there. Sometimes divine silence is necessary because God has to do something in the background, and that's the time, when you get the most doubtful and fearful. But just because he's silent, it doesn't mean he's not there. Well, I scheduled my interview for September 10th, and God asked me to start another 3-day fast. On the 7th, 8th, and the 9th, the day before my final interview, I went ahead and I did a 3-day fast again, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And during this time, God asked me to write a LinkedIn post about what I had gone through, and it was basically me telling people how I fasted and prayed for my job and how I ended up getting the job. So I haven't even gone on my final interview at this point, but I have a screenshot of this as well. I wrote this a week before I had gotten the offer. And you guys know, LinkedIn is like a professional space. People typically don't talk about faith. I don't even post on LinkedIn. I never have posted. I think I've left like one comment on someone's page before. So this was like very out of the ordinary. And I was really nervous to make this and to post it, but I went ahead and I did it anyway. So I wrote this post for LinkedIn, And I was basically speaking into the future that God got me this job, and it started with praying and fasting essentially. And it was basically just trying to motivate people and maybe bring people to God if possible, maybe to get them to second guess what they were doing if what they were doing wasn't working for them. That night I was just very overwhelmed. I was very happy. I was thankful that God had taken the time to hold my hand and show me how to fast and pray for him. And I felt like he was just holding my hand through this whole thing. And I told him, like, I'm ready to go to war for you, God. Like, whatever you need me to do, you can trust me. I prayed for influence, that I could help save souls and bring people closer to him. I told him he can trust me with whatever he needed. And then the very next morning, Kay posted a prophetic word about prayer warriors. I knew that I was going to get the job. But of course, after the next day on September 10th, I did my final interview, and it went amazing. I got on that. It was a group Zoom chat. It was a video chat where I got to meet the people who would be my colleagues. We were like laughing. It was very comfortable being on that call. The CEO was there kind of monitoring. I don't know how the other interviews went, of course, but I just felt like he was just kind of seeing how we got along and stuff like that. And I remember every time the Zoom call would go to his screen, he'd be smiling because he was really enjoying the conversation that we were having. And it ran over the time limit that we had because we were just kind of like laughing and talking about obviously my experience and stuff like that. But as soon as I got off that call, even with all the stuff that God had done, even with all the positive signs that I had, I still doubted myself. I still thought, like, I probably said that wrong. I had to write a sample email and I couldn't get over how I replied to the sample email. I thought I did that wrong. I was like, I'm not gonna get this job that quick. As soon as I got off the call, my daughter was like, chill. I had finally just started praying to God, like thanking him for the opportunity for that interview and all of that. And so I had the interview on the 10th. I didn't expect to hear back until the 14th about who would be getting the job, but I had gotten a call the next day from the HR recruiter who had been helping me, and he was just asking for feedback. And the way that he asked me, it scared me because I didn't know which way it was gonna go. I was literally shaking, like couldn't hold the phone to my ear. I was shaking so bad and my voice was shaking. And then he said, well, I told him I loved talking to everybody and what they're doing and yada yada, and he offered me the position, and I could not believe it. Not only did they offer me the position, but it was the next day when they said they'd still be interviewing other candidates. So I just wasn't expecting the call that early. That's why I thought maybe this wasn't gonna happen for me, but I ended up getting the job. I was very excited. The following Monday, September 14th, was this past Monday, they had sent a request to do my background check, and the email said that it would typically take about 3 business days for it to be completed. But I woke up on September 15th, the date that God promised me that I would have this job, the date that I sent my therapist. I woke up that morning and saw that my background check had cleared the exact same day. So on September 15th, I had a job. I was officially a part of the company. God gave me the date that I would have the job. I could cry right now. I have some links in my description box that I think will be helpful to you guys. Some worship songs that I just found out about that I really loved. Some pastors. I have Kay's channel, Joy's channel about fasting in the link below. And Tyler Perry actually just did a video about how to handle anxiety and how you have to constantly keep ascending above anything that you're feeling, or else you're going to get stuck there. So it's a really powerful, quick word, but I just wanted to share this with you guys because I know that it gets hard and it looks like it's not going to end, and it's brutal, and you have nothing left to give. But I'm telling you, God is right there with you. In the midst of all of this, God is right there with you. Do not doubt his word. If he tells you he's going to do it, he's going to do it. He is not a man that he should lie. He is going to do it for you if you have faith in him. Take take hoping that you're going to impress a recruiter out of this, and you hope and you give it to God. You ask God to shine through you and set you apart. You ask God to show you what job is for you or what role he's created for you. And the crazy thing is that out of 60 applicants, they chose 2 people, and I was one of them. And they said that I was humble, and they said that I really set myself apart, and it was a really tough decision, but there was just something about me, and I know that was nobody but God. So I just wanted to share this to be encouraging to someone. I know it was long. That wasn't intended, but I just wanted to show you guys, like, God is always there with you.